The Curse of Elara. A deep horror story. In the city of Warsaw, during the harsh winter of 1963, a witch known as Madame Elara was persecuted by the Catholic Church for occult practices. She had created special dolls, woven from the hair of her victims and filled with dust from ancient tombs. When she was captured, she cursed each of the dolls, swearing they would bring misfortune to whoever possessed them. Documents from the time, recently found in secret archives, reveal that exactly 317 dolls were created, each with a name engraved on its black wooden base. The creation ritual was as obscene as it was meticulous. Madame Elara performed the ceremonies during the new moon, using candles made from human fat and reciting incantations in a dead language that historians have yet to fully decipher. The dolls were bathed in a mixture of menstrual blood, the tears of orphaned children, and extracts of poisonous plants found only in abandoned cemeteries. Each doll was given a wooden heart carved with demonic symbols, which pulsed gently when someone approached with ill intentions. The curse wasn't immediate, but rather progressive and calculated. In the first few days, the doll's owner experienced slightly disturbing, almost imperceptible dreams. In the second week, small objects in the house began to move unexplainedly. In the third week, sleep became impossible, and voices whispered in unknown languages during the night. In the fourth week, the doll began to move on its own, assuming different positions each morning. In the fifth week, the curse culminated with irreparable personal tragedies. The dolls mysteriously disappeared after Madame Elara's execution, but reappeared at clandestine auctions over the following decades. Obsessive collectors paid fortunes for these pieces, unaware that they were buying their own ruin. Some historians believe the dolls were guardians of dark secrets, and that Madame Elara had sealed part of her soul within each of them to ensure her immortality through the suffering of others. The truth is that to this day, 60 years later, none of the dolls has been completely destroyed. Recent documents found in a secret library reveal that the dolls are connected to each other through a supernatural bond. When a doll is destroyed, its energy transfers to another nearby, making the curse virtually indestructible. Records show that Madame Elara had predicted that her creations would continue to wreak havoc for generations, and that the only way to break the curse would be to find and destroy them all simultaneously during a specific lunar eclipse. To date, only 23 dolls have been located, leaving 294 still lost in the world. Clara Anders was 28 when she inherited the doll from her deceased grandmother, a mysterious woman who had always believed in stories of witches and dark magic. From a young age, Clara was sensitive to atmospheres and often dreamed of events yet to come. She worked as an archivist at a historical museum, where her attention to minute details made her ideal for investigating ancient documents. Her introspective and curious personality led her to question the world around her, often delving into research that others would consider too obscure. Her relationship with her mother was strained, as they both carried unresolved traumas from generations past. Clara's grandmother, Clara Anders, had been an occult scholar who dedicated her life to collecting mysterious artifacts. She knew about the existence of Madame Elara's dolls, but never told her family about the real danger they posed. Esther had acquired the doll at an underground auction in the 1980s, believing she could study it and neutralize its curse. For years, she kept the doll in a sealed box, but as she felt her death approaching, she decided to leave it to Clara, perhaps unconsciously as a form of protection or as a final test of courage. Her diaries, found after her death, revealed a profound knowledge of the dark arts that she never shared with anyone. Clara's co-worker, Dr. Marcus Weinberg, was a historian specializing in medieval periods and had a particular fascination with occult practices. He noticed Clara's strange behavior in the weeks following her inheritance of the doll and began investigating on his own. Marcus had an analytical and skeptical personality, but he was open to possibilities that defied conventional logic. His relationship with Clara evolved from colleagues to close friends, and eventually to something deeper, creating an emotional connection that would be tested by supernatural events. He brought a rational perspective that balanced Clara's intuition, making them a powerful team to face the unknown. Clara's mother, Margaret Anders, carried emotional scars from a difficult childhood marked by undisclosed family secrets. She had grown up hearing fragmented stories about her grandmother Esther, but always dismissed them as exaggerations of an imaginative mind. When Clara began showing symptoms of psychological distress, Margaret initially attributed it to grief and depression, not realizing that something far more sinister was at work. Her relationship with her daughter was complicated by years of miscommunication and unfulfilled expectations. But when she realized the real danger, Margaret became an unexpected ally in the fight against the curse. Her journey from denial to acceptance was crucial to the family's survival. The elderly neighbor, Mr. Kowalski, was a Holocaust survivor who immediately recognized the doll as Madame Elara's creation. He had seen similar dolls in a concentration camp where Madame Elara had been forced to create toys for condemned children. His traumatic experience with Nazi occultism had left him hypersensitive to cursed objects, and he tried to warn Clara from the beginning. Kowalski possessed practical knowledge of spiritual protection that his grandparents had taught him in Poland before the war devastated their lives. His ancient wisdom and experience with true evil made him a crucial mentor, though his advanced age limited his ability to act directly against supernatural forces. The Elara doll was a disturbingly beautiful creation, with intense red hair that seemed to have a life of its own, moving even without a draft. Her eyes were made of dark blue glass that reflected light unnaturally, seeming to follow whoever was in the room. The cloth-like skin was a cadaverous white, with bluish veins tattooed in relief that seemed to pulsate under certain lighting conditions. The clothes were black silk, embroidered with gold threads that formed occult symbols almost invisible to the casual eye. The most disturbing details were the tiny fingernails, painted blood red, which left small scratches on soft surfaces overnight. The smell emanating from the doll was indescribably repugnant, a mixture of wilted flowers, rotting flesh, and something indefinitely ancient that resembled open graves. Clara first noticed this odor in her apartment during the third week of her possession of the doll, an aroma that seemed to stick in the throat and cause persistent nausea. As the curse progressed, the smell intensified, especially at night, when it seemed to emanate directly from the doll as if it were breathing. The odor was so potent that neighbors began to complain, and Clara noticed that pets refused to enter her apartment. During moments of intense supernatural activity, the smell became so strong that it seemed physical, almost palpable, enveloping people like a toxic fog. The sound produced by the doll was subtle but unmistakable, a distorted childlike laughter that echoed through the apartment's hallways in the wee hours. Sometimes it was accompanied by whispers in a guttural language reminiscent of corrupted Latin, words that seemed to crawl across the walls like invisible insects. Clara also began to hear the sound of sewing, the click of a needle-piercing fabric, the creak of an ancient loom, even when no one was working in her apartment. During the most intense moments, the entire apartment seemed to vibrate with a low, constant frequency that made teeth chatter and skin tingle with discomfort. The most terrifying sound was when the doll sang lullabies in multiple voices, as if several children were singing in unison from its small, still mouth. The doll's texture was contradictory, seemingly soft to the touch but with a strange resistance reminiscent of rotting wood beneath the cloth surface. Clara discovered that the doll's temperature varied inexplicably, sometimes as cold as marble, and other times as hot as living flesh. The cloth of which it was made seemed to absorb the surrounding light, creating a larger than normal shadow when placed near light sources. The doll's hair had an oily texture that left a dark red residue on the hands of anyone who touched it, a residue that wouldn't wash away with soap and water. When Clara tried to clean the doll, her hands were marked with patterns reminiscent of old scars, marks that lingered for days before magically disappearing. The doll's visual changes were gradual but terrifying. Initially identical to any old doll, it began to display details not originally present. Small stains of dried blood on its clothes, tiny cuts on its cloth hands, and facial expressions that varied from innocent to malicious, depending on the time of day. At night, its skin appeared translucent, revealing an internal structure resembling miniaturized human bones and organs. The doll's eyes glowed with their own light in complete darkness, creating red dots that could be seen from across the apartment. In its final weeks, the doll began to grow, increasing a few millimeters per day, as if preparing for something much larger than its current form could allow. The first revelation came when Clara discovered that her grandmother Esther had not inherited the doll, but had stolen it from a museum in Prague during a research trip in the 1980s. Museum records showed that the doll had been catalogued as piece number 666, and that several staff members had reported strange behavior before its mysterious removal. Esther had infiltrated the museum at night, using skills she never shared with her family, and had replaced the original doll with a convincing replica she had created herself. This discovery raised the terrifying possibility that Esther had been influenced by the curse long before Clara, explaining her eccentric behavior and obsessive interest in the occult. The second twist revealed that Dr. Marcus Weinberg was not just an interested historian, but a direct descendant of one of the executioners who had executed Madame Elara in 1963. His ancestors had kept secret records of the execution and the dolls they created, passing this information down through the generations as a form of surveillance. Marcus had been sent to investigate Clara specifically, as her family had tracked doll number 66 to the Prague Museum and then to the Anders family. His close encounter with Clara was no coincidence, but rather part of an elaborate plan to retrieve the doll and destroy it before the curse spread further. This revelation transformed the entire relationship between the characters, questioning motivations and loyalties. The third revelation came when Margaret Anders confessed that she had grown up in a secret community of descendants of Madame Elara's victims, people who had developed a natural resistance to occult curses. Her family had been trained in spiritual protection practices since childhood, and she had recognized the symptoms of the curse in Clara long before any other family member. Margaret had tried to protect Clara by keeping her distance, knowing that her very presence could activate more dangerous aspects of the curse. This confession revealed that the family history was far more complex than Clara had imagined, involving generations of struggles against supernatural forces. The fourth twist revealed that Mr. Kowalski was not only a Holocaust survivor, but also a former prisoner forced to work in the workshops where Madame Elara created her dolls. He had witnessed the creation process in gruesome detail and immediately recognized Clara's doll as one of the originals. Kowalski had spent decades trying to locate and destroy the remaining dolls, and his presence in the building was no coincidence, but rather part of a final mission to complete what he had begun decades earlier. His failing health was the result of prolonged exposure to the doll's negative energies, and he knew his time was running out. The final and most shocking revelation was that Clara was not human, but rather a creation of Madame Elara, designed to infiltrate families and facilitate the spread of the curse. The documents found revealed that Madame Elara had created not only dolls, but also artificial humans with implanted memories and fake family connections. Clara was one of the witch's last creations, sent to ensure the curse continued even after her creator's death. This revelation completely transformed the narrative, as Clara realized that her entire life had been an elaborate farce created to serve a dark purpose. The story is set in Warsaw, the capital of Poland. To be continued. If you liked it and want to see part 2 of the story, write part 2 in the comments. We'll post the video soon. You'll understand the whole story of how it all began. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like it, and leave a comment. See you in the next videos.